Grade 8, Lesson 4. Let's start with our opening prayer. May the wisdom of the all-compassionate one so shine within our hearts and minds this day, that we may be enlightened in our acts, thoughts and deeds. So shall we learn to be true, good and happy, and attain the spiritual peace. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. So let's start about Lesson 4 on page 33, the socio-political role of the family. Starting with a quote by Jean Vanier. One of the marvelous things about community is that it enables us to welcome and help people in a way we couldn't as individuals. When we pool our strength and share the work and responsibility, we can welcome many people, even those in deep distress, and perhaps help them find self-confidence and inner healing. Again from Jean Vanier. So firstly, I'd like to recall the previous lesson by asking some students to share what they have learned in Lesson 3. So you can submit that. I'd like to ask you, students, to describe the latest news that you've seen on TV, read in the newspapers or heard on the radio, obviously YouTube and so on as well. And I'd like to ask you, students, what is the effect of such news to the society, to the family, and to you? Please answer and submit. I'd like to explain to you, students, that the topic is about the socio-political role of the family and how families, as the basic unit of the society, can affect positive changes to the community and to the country. I'd like to kindly ask you students to read pages 33 and 34, including the story of Antonio Tony Melotto. There he is at the Gawad Kalinga, building communities to end poverty. That's their logo. There he is with people who he's helping. If you will be asked, so we're on page 33 now on the text. If you will be asked, what is the most pressing problem of the country today? What would be your reply? There you go, you can answer and submit that. The prevalence of social media and powerful search engines have provided us immediate access to news and information. However, if we reflect upon it, most of the problems that we face today are the same ones that our parents and even our grandparents have been grappling with. Social issues such as poverty, high cost of living, illegal drugs, corruption, criminality, and a host of other things have plagued our country for a long time. To whom can we look upon to solve the ills of the society? You could answer that one as well, that's a question now. If the family is the basic unit of society, then families are called to craft novel solutions to old problems and take up the challenge of becoming agents of positive change. One Filipino family has courageously responded to the issue of poverty, led by Antonio Tony Melotto. The Melotto family has worked hand in hand with the different sectors of the society for a sustainable poverty alleviation program. Starting there with the victories of life about Antonio Tony Melotto. There is an old saying that goes, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Antonio Tony Melotto has a very ambitious goal to help the Philippines get out of poverty by the year 2024. And he knew the journey would be long and arduous. Tito Tony, as he is fondly called, started the journey towards the eradication of poverty way back in the year 1995. Like any other audacious goals, every step of the journey has been filled with hardship and sacrifices. However, Tito Tony has been blessed to have companions in his long journey. He was able to get the support of his faith community, Couples for Christ, individual investors, corporations, and more importantly, his family. In an interview by Father Jose Antonio M. Rebelo, a Comboni missionary, Tito Tony revealed that he sees poverty both from a spiritual and economic perspective. As a meaningful expression of their faith, Tito Tony and his family decided to dedicate their life for the poor and care for, now on to page 34, those who are neglected and abandoned. He said, "I realized that my Christianity was not just about me and my children. It was about the bigger community, the entire country, which suffers simply because people do not go beyond self and family." I realized that loving my family was natural love, but loving the poor was divine love. I had to learn how to see the poor no longer as objects of my charity, or as beggars I give alms to, or as labourers to whom I give wages, or even as thieves and criminals who are a threat from whom I have to protect myself. The usual pattern for people like me is to study hard, get rich, and do charity. But there's hardly any affection, respect, or kinship with the poor. And there's more, by the way, about this organization, Gawa Kalinga, and that website, at that website. Tony Melotto founded Gawad Kalinga, GK, as an expression of his faith and his love for the poor. GK, with its more than 250 employees and thousands of volunteers, has built more than 200,000 houses and still continues to build communities for the poor. As part of nation building and efforts to bring the country out of poverty, GK works with the economic team of the government with the economic team of the government, has partnered with leading universities abroad to collaborate with public health, collaborates with French business schools on social entrepreneurship, and tirelessly works on a village university to encourage graduate university students to work in communities and create wealth for those who are at the bottom of the pyramid. And the reference, this is also an important practice I hope you're getting used to. When you quote from a book, you should quote the book. So it was retrieved from this website and this article, I Am a Radical Optimist, from 2018. On to the inflame on page 34. While a lot of people are complaining about the state of the country's economy, homelessness, or the rising poverty levels, there are people, families, and organizations who have decided to do something about it. The Gawad Kalinga movement is one such example. At GK communities, houses are being built by volunteers and sustainable communities are raised. The poor communities, which were once a picture of hopelessness, squalor, and undignified living conditions, have become a place of hope, faith, and dignity. Needless to say, there have been thousands of families who have already worked with Gawad Kalinga to help eradicate poverty. Those families have seen that they have an important part to play in the socio-political sphere of the society. Boxing up items to send to aid assistance. So firstly, the question, processing question, you won't find this in the book. What is the story all about? If you can pause here, review it, and tell me, what is that story all really about? Give us your summary. Guideline here. The story is about the mission of Tony Malotto to end poverty in the Philippines with the help of his foundation, Gawad Kalinga, GK. And what is the lesson of the story? What is the lesson of the story? A guideline. Well, your answers may vary, but highlight the importance of faith, of patriotism, of heroic sacrifice, and of service. How can you relate to the story yourself? How can you relate to the story? Please answer and submit. The answers may vary, but I'd like things highlighted such as heroic sacrifice through volunteerism, faith through faith believing in the goodness and capabilities of the human person, and service to fellow men. Now we're on to page 35. Please do the reflection questions on page 35. First one, what do you think is the biggest social problem our country is facing at the moment, and why? Secondly, how can a student like you help in solving the social problem that you have identified? And thirdly, how can a young person like you engage others to help in solving the social problems plaguing the country? Now, Rediscover, I'd like to ask you to read pages 35-36. A role to fulfill. According to the United Nations World Population Plan of Action, the family is the basic unit of society and should be protected by appropriate legislation and policy. It asserts that in all parts of the world, families perform important socio-economic and cultural functions, such as providing the natural framework as providing the natural framework for the emotional, financial and material support essential to the growth and development of their members, infants and children, and for the care of other dependents, the elderly, disabled and the infirm. Also, the family in all its forms is the cornerstone of the world community and remains a vital means of preserving and transmitting cultural values. More importantly, families are important in creating sustainable development at all levels of society. Since the family is the basic unit of the society, it has a role to fulfill to ensure the continued existence of a just and free world, a world which, despite human flaws and limitations, continues to respect human dignity, revere human freedom, and provide material needs for man's survival and development. So we're on to page 36 now. Man's should be social and domestic obligations. In choosing a state of life, men and women are free either to live in single blessedness or be married. It must be stressed, however, that no human law can abolish the natural and original right of marriage, which is for people to increase and multiply. It is for this reason that the family is thus considered as the society of a man's house. The family might be a small society, but nonetheless a true society and one older than any state. There's a picture of the mother and father and the children and the siblings helping to do the household chores and tidy around, and also in the street outside the house. Preservation. Every family has a right in the choice and pursuit of things needful to its preservation. It is very common nowadays to have both parents working for the family. Indeed, parents should provide food and material goods for those they have begotten. That means birthed. Moreover, parents should strive to provide those things that will enable the family to keep themselves from want and misery. The state should not become a hindrance to the attainment of the things needed by a family for its preservation, or else it will be detested. Meaning that the state, the government, should not get in the way, or they will be hated. Parental authority. Parents carry the immense responsibility of taking care of their children, bringing them up properly, providing them with an education, and ultimately assisting them to achieve their dreams and become productive members of the society. Parental authority can be neither abolished nor absorbed by the state. Undeniably, every child who has taken his place in civil society did not come out of his own right, but through the family in which he was born. And a side note to this, and I'm speaking as a Buddhist monk, in Buddhism, children are not created by the family, and they do have their own karma. So that's a difference in the line of reasoning that the book is taking. But the family does influence the child, and the child influences the family. But the point is there that the child coming in is not a blank slate. They have a history already, and they have pluses and minuses already. Material possessions. As for material wealth, the principle is that it is one thing to have a right to the possession of money, and another to have a right to use money as one wills, as one wishes to. Right. So everybody has a right to the possession of money, but it's another thing to be about how you will use that money. You can't just do what you want. Private ownership is the natural right of man, and for man to exercise that right is absolutely necessary, private ownership. It is lawful, says St. Thomas Aquinas, for a man to hold private property, and it is also necessary for the carrying on of human existence, written there in the Rerum Novarum 22. Again, there is some difference here. In the Buddhism, for example, the monastics do not hold private property, other than very few things, their robes and a bowl and so on. However, we must consider that material possessions are common to all, and we are called to share our possessions without hesitation for those in need. Missing the word there. Hence, temporal blessings, meaning material blessings, must be used for perfecting our nature and for benefiting others. The true worth of man. What is the true worth of man? The true worth and nobility of man lie in his or her moral qualities, that is, in virtue. Rerum Novarum, number 24. Virtue is equally within the reach of high and low, rich and poor. If positive changes are to be effected in the community and the society, it must begin within the family. The family must be an intimate community of life and love that manifests virtues in its words and deeds. Okay, so we reach the end there of that rather quite lengthy and deep article, A Role to Fulfill. Now, this also, I don't know why it doesn't have, I'm just going to insert a yellow box because this is a mini PT. I don't know why I don't have it there. There you go, no one's perfect. on this one and on this one. So let's go back again. Here we go. So firstly, I'd like to kindly ask you students to create a short skit that will demonstrate the following: man's social and domestic obligations, preservation of the family, parental authority, need for and proper use of material possessions, true worth of man. Okay then. What is the main idea about the socio-political role of the family? And what are the supporting details? Again, so what is the main idea about socio-political role of the family? And then there are smaller details around it. And so you can use this graphic organizer. So the main idea down there, fill in that, and you can take a screenshot of this to do that with, and then fill in some details. Right, moving on then. Let's have a look at the next one. Yeah, it is the wrong page number. Let's process the lesson by highlighting that the family has roles in the larger society and that it is the obligation of every family to fulfill those roles. That's the main thing there. Right, this is actually the right page number, 37. And a mini performance task before we go on about valuing a virtue. I'd like to ask you to read page 37. I'd like to ask you to form groups composed of 4 members, and in the group ask them to assign a secretary and a moderator, and then ask the students within there to come up with a list of injustices that they see in society and come up with a suggestion on how such injustices can be corrected. And I'd like to ask the groups there to share your answers. Clear? So that's your task, to form a group of 4 members, and 2 of you will be secretary and moderator. And then what kind of injustices do you see? And also I'd like to see suggestions how they could be corrected. Right? And I'd like to communicate that in sharing your answers. The way for you to do that, I'm going to leave it up to you. Okay, so you can use an app, you can use a document, you can use paper and card, and you find the best way to do that you can. You can use video, it's up to you. So moving on to valuing a virtue and the virtue of justice. Reading. When people hear the word justice, usually the image of a courtroom with a judge, lawyers, and complainants come to mind. Such notions are correct, for they are indeed manifestations of man's pursuit for justice according to the law. However, justice can be seen from another perspective, which is love as the maximum of justice and justice as the minimum of love. So when love is present, that's where you see the most justice right there. And then justice as the minimum of love. It's a bit difficult to penetrate the meaning of that, so let's have a read on. Justice as a virtue is recognizing that human beings have the capacity to love and deserve to be loved. To say that justice is the minimum of love is to look at erring human beings as deserving of justice. That is, for them to have a fair treatment or trial and a humane punishment or consequence as a result of their action. These people may have made errors in their life, still they should have their day in court, so to speak. Take, for example, a classmate who failed to submit his part for a report. As an act of love, he should be given a chance to explain his reason for failing to fulfill his obligation and receive a fair consequence if the situation warrants it. For people accused of crimes, their cases undergo due process before being convicted or acquitted. To say that love is the maximum of justice means to go beyond the concept of punishment and retribution as manifestations of justice. It is being able to show love to the people who have erred despite the mistakes and after the punishment or consequence. How many times have you hurt your parents and received punishment? Have they loved you any less? They might have punished you and made you suffer the consequences of your actions, but these are also for your own good. And despite everything, they still continue to love you and take care of you. So we reach the bottom of page 37. So, trivia. Society. The word society comes from the Latin societatem, which means fellowship, association, alliance, union, and community. May we all unite against the social evils that prevent us from truly becoming an intimate community of life and love. Consider about the trivia. Let's be encouraged to become productive members of the society through the families. Okay, so we're on page 38 now. Uplifting realizations. As you have learned, the family has a socio-political role to fulfill. This role can be practiced through the following. 1. Promoting the gift of life and stopping the culture of death. The family is called to stand against bills that will legalize abortion and promote contraception as a way to control population. Secondly, taking care of your material possessions. When you take care of your material possessions, you demonstrate your gratitude to your parents who worked so hard to provide for your family. In taking care of your possessions, you learn to value the hard work put into the purchase of such possessions. Thus, you will learn to respect the things of others as well. Respecting and obeying your parents, authorities, and leaders. So that one stands on its own. Right, so moving on. I'd like you to please answer points to ponder on page 39. First point to ponder: how can you encourage others to stop practicing the culture of death? Culture of death. How can you do that? So answer there. How do you show respect for the possessions of other people? Answer there. Engagement. The summative test. Identify the person or the concept that is being described by the following items and write your answer on the space before the number. This refers to the founder of Gawad Kalinga. Excuse me, I'm just going to put the green box in there, which isn't there yet. That's so people can go through the YouTube smoothly and find where they are needing to do that. The spinning beach ball. It's often one of these things we have to be patient about using our device. Okay, so this and here. There it is. And the next one as well. Okay, so now we can get back to it. So the first one, this refers to the founder of Gawad Kalinga. Number two, this refers to the act of going beyond the concept of punishment and retribution as manifestations of justice. This refers to the act of going beyond the concept of punishment and retribution as manifestations of justice. Very important point. Three, this refers to the people who should be the immense responsibility of taking care of children, bringing them up properly, and providing them with an education. 4, this refers to where the true worth and nobility of man can be found. Okay. 5, this refers to the Latin term which means fellowship, association, alliance, and union. And moving on. 6, this refers to the culture that promotes abortion, euthanasia, and use of contraceptives to control the growth of human population. Seven, this refers to the cornerstone of the world community, the main thing that is at the foundation of the world community. 8, this refers to the virtue that we demonstrate when we take good care of our material possessions. This refers to the virtue that we demonstrate when we take good care of our material possessions. The virtue that we demonstrate when we take good care of our material possessions. 9, this refers to the concept of recognizing that human beings have the capacity to love and deserve to be loved. Sorry, I'm just turning my alarm off, otherwise it's going to go off again. Right, so 10, this refers to the basic unit of the society. Okay, so there's all 10 questions from the summative test. Please answer and submit. And 39, encouraging others to serve. So if you will be asked to propose a community service activity where families can help out, what would it be? Complete the details below. If you'll be asked to propose a community service activity where families can help out, what would it be? Complete the details below. Here's the invitation there. Everyone is invited to join the, and then put your idea there. Where will it be? Da, 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 da. When will it be? Da, 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 da. Why? Da, 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 da. Because, no. How? Da, 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 da. Okay, so that's a mini performance task for you to do and submit. Right, so we're moving on to page 40. Situational analysis. Situation 1. You notice that some of your neighbors are dumping their trash at an inconspicuous part of the village. You tell them about this and warn them. It's spelt wrong. Warn them, not warn them. That's like worn out clothes. Warn them that such practice is unsanitary and may cause some health problems for the members of the community. Isn't this something you see a lot in our area? So your neighbors are dumping their trash at an inconspicuous. Inconspicuous means nobody notices it. You know, it's just kind of over there where nobody looks, part of the village. You tell them about this and warn them that such practice is unsanitary, it's unclean, and may cause some health problems for the members of the community. Dogs and cats and rats spreading diseases. They tell you not to worry because the garbage truck collects the trash every week. However, you know that sometimes dogs pick on the trash and spread the garbage on the street. Also, during the rainy season, the trash gets wet and emits a foul smell. How can you help your community correct this mistake and rediscover the importance of their socio-political role? How can you help your community to correct this mistake and rediscover the importance of their socio-political role? So possible solution one, you might try this. Possible solution, you might try that. Best solution would be that one. And how can you encourage your family members and friends to consider critically the impact of their actions, not just to the community, but also to the society and the world? Next, situation 2. This summer, you and your friends are thinking of organizing a volleyball fest for your fellow youth. There is a vacant lot in your community which you can use. However, the lot needs to be cleared, lines must be drawn, and a volleyball net has to be put up. You have asked some help from the barangay officers, and they are promising a small amount of money to get the volleyball fest started. You are very excited about this project, but you still need some money and manpower to formally begin it. What else can you do so that this volleyball fest will get underway? Possible solution 1, 2, and the best solution. How can you encourage your family members and friends to be mindful of to be mindful of their health. Sorry, I thought I'd got the wrong one. I was just checking the book. How can you encourage your family members and friends to be mindful of their health? So next, moving on to page 41, we've got the scaffolding for the performance task. Right. Reflect upon the socio-political role of the family. And your task is to create a meaningful slogan to describe the importance of the family to society. Write a short message under your slogan to encourage families to fulfill their role to society to the best of their ability. So it's a meaningful slogan about the importance of family to society. So it's a slogan. And then it's like a headline, strong, powerful, punchy use of words. And then write a short message under your slogan to encourage families to fulfill their role to society, the best of their ability. Yeah, your country needs you, and you can something. Okay? Okay, so you're creating a meaningful slogan. For the slogan to get 3 points, the slogan should be very appealing and very creative. And the output part, in its purpose, the output achieves the task's objectives successfully and convincingly. And at the other end, for 1 point only, the slogan is pretty plain and unremarkable, and the output does not really achieve the task's objectives. So no human law can abolish the natural and original right of marriage, which is for people to increase and multiply. So that's just talking about the police laws and what the government can try to do. Yeah, it's not really in harmony with the idea of the Buddhist monastic idea. But then I'm not going to talk about that. I was just saying, all it's saying is that the government can't pass laws to say you're only allowed to have one child, for example. Not here. It has been done in other countries. So the state should not become a hindrance to the attainment of the things needed by the family or for its preservation, or else it will be detested. It will be hated. Yeah, it's fairly common sense if you think about it, but it can happen again. It can happen again. Next, every child who has taken its place in civil society did not come out of its own right, but through the family in which it was born. And I'll put a caveat there that this is not Buddhist Dharma. In Buddhist Dharma, it's the opposite, actually. While your parents and family and cultural bringing, it is an extremely strong shaping force. It's not everything, and in Buddhist Dharma, every child does have its own karma as well. So next, it is lawful for a man to hold private property. Well, it should be for a human or a person, I think, to hold private property, and is also necessary for the carrying on of human existence. Again, that's not really altogether in line with the Buddha, who was advocating a form of homeless way and sharing, community sharing, which is the Sangha. But we will put that aside. All I am doing is reporting on what Arete have for this cult, for this one. But I think again, this is talking about secular basics, not ultimates. Yeah, I think we can just say that. The true worth and nobility of man lie in his moral quality, that is, in virtue. All right, we're good with that one. Next, a quote from Saint Gregory the Great. He that hath a talent, let him see that he hide it not. He that hath abundance, let him quicken himself to mercy and generosity. He that hath art and skill, let him do his best to share the use and utility hereof with his neighbour. Art and skill, let him do his best to share the use and utility hereof with his neighbour. And quickening himself to mercy and generosity. The closing prayer then. Reverently do we pray to Thee, the Holy and Perfect One. We earnestly resolve to understand Thy teaching and to daily tread Thy path. So shall, like Thee, we may attain the peace of Nirvana. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Good. Go in peace, and I wish you all to benefit from that. You have my blessing.